This is Access Ann Arbor.
Hi, my name is Greg Meisner, and I'm a member of Ann Arbor Morris. I am here with other members of our performance group, Corey,
Hi.
Lewis, and Sam, and we're here to tell you about Morris dancing and invite you, all of you, watching this video to join us. We want to convince you that Morris dancing is really fun and something you would like to try. Whenever you're watching this video, whether it's airing for the first time or you're seeing it years later on YouTube, we want to hear from you if you're interested.
Now, Morris dancing is a very old performance tradition from England that today is done around the world. But before we talk a whole bunch about it, we would like to show you what it looks like. So we have a video for you.
It's time!
As you can see, the Morris dancing is boisterous, somewhat athletic, and choreographed. It's quite different from most commonly recognized forms of performance dancing or social dancing, such as ballroom dancing. Now that you've seen what we're talking about, we'd like to share a little bit more about the history of Morris dancing. Corey?
Well, nobody really knows exactly when Morris dancing started or why. The reasons are lost to the mists of time, though there are many competing theories on the subject. Most people do agree that something called Morris dancing started somewhere between Chaucer and Shakespeare. And the earliest written reference that we still have was for dancers being paid for their performance at a party in like 1448. However, most of what we do today was collected in rural England around either the end of the 19th century or has been made up in the last 40, 50 years.
Historically, Morris dancing was done largely by men, but following the folk revival of the 70s, Morris dancing has expanded to include men, women, and families. Our team, in fact, has 3 generations of dancers dancing all at the same time. Sam, can you tell us how your family got involved in Morris dancing?
So the first recollection I have of Morris dancing is of, I was a kid, I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, at the art fair with my family, and I saw Morris dancing and it caught my attention. I in fact saw Greg. I recall you with your orange beard back then. And there were sticks and people were jumping and it was rowdy and it was fun and it was kind of loud and very playful. And it caught my attention enough that my dad went and started talking to the dancers and found out when practice was. And I had the attention of a child at that time, but my dad did, I did talk my dad into taking me to practice a couple of times, and he got interested. And so he started dancing, and then in another year or so, I started dancing and performing with the team as well. And that was roughly 20 years ago, over 20 years ago now, and now my teenager dances with the team as well.
So I started dancing about 30 years ago because a friend of mine told me I should do it, and so I went and I stuck with it. So Louis, can you tell us how you got started with Ann Arbor Morris?
Yeah, I started dancing with Ann Arbor Morris in 2005. My mother was actually one of the founders of the Ann Arbor team, and so I remember being around Morris when I was younger, but because of miscellaneous health issues, she had stopped dancing before I was old enough to talk, and we had moved out of the state when I was about 9. So I never really got into being a dancer myself, but I moved back to Ann Arbor about 10 years ago, early 2005, and through one of my mother's friends, someone on the Ann Arbor team found out that I had moved back into town and decided that since my mother was one of the founders of the team, it would be appropriate if I started dancing, and that therefore I should show up at practice. I was confronted with this, and it was the middle of the summer at the time, and I said, I don't like dancing in the heat, so I don't really feel like joining, to which he said, oh, that's fine. We dance during the winter and we dance inside. And I said, okay, and kind of passively said, you can let me know then. I hadn't heard about Morris then for several months until I started getting phone calls from quite a few people in the same day saying that I was supposed to be at practice this Sunday and that I had agreed to do it. To which I figured the easiest thing to do was just show up instead of try arguing. So I did, and I never really escaped again. Started liking it and kept with it, now almost 10 years.
And Corey, how did you get involved in Morris dancing?
Well, way back in junior high, actually the same person who organized the phone call barrage for Louis was a good friend of mine, and I had wanted to know why he couldn't come and hang out on a Sunday afternoon. And he told me that it was because he was going to Morris practice with his family. His parents both were dancers at that time as well. And I was like, what's Morris practice? What is this thing you speak of? And he told me about it, and being the adventurous sort of nerdy person that I was like, take me with you. And he did, and that was kind of that. And actually, I will have been on the team for 20 years in December.
That's great. So let's describe a little bit more about what it means to be on the Morris team. What do Morris dancers do? Corey, can you?
Well, the thing that we've talked about 3 times already, at least, is we do have weekly practices. They're on Sundays from 6 to 8. If anybody would like to come and check it out, you can find out more information about where we will be practicing on our website. It varies based on the time of the year and what's available. So inside in the winter, outside in the summer. And at practices, we brush up our current repertoire. We teach new dancers. We sometimes make up new dances or learn old ones from other groups. And all of that is getting ready for performances. We have several.
So one of the performances in particular happens on May Day. So Sam, can you tell us about our May Day activities?
Well, every year on May Day, Morris dancers across the country and across the world actually get up and dance in the dawn to encourage the sun to come up every day for another year. You can all thank us later. We have additional performances that we do. Some of them are annual performances. And there's a style to the performances with Morris dancing. A lot of our performances are at art fairs or other situations where we're really in with the crowd. So it can be a circumstance where there are people milling around in the area where we're going to be dancing, so we get to put on a show of running in and chasing the rabble out of the way so that we can replace them with our own version of rabble. We also do performances where we're more in a stage setting with live music, which we'll talk about later. So the May Day performance is a big traditional thing, but there's also performances that we do that are paid that we then use.
I think we do an herb farm in the spring and
Yeah.
other annual, like the Celine Celtic Festival, those sorts of things. One of the big events we have every year is the big festival called the Midwest Morris Ale that we go to. I think we have a video to show on a Morris Ale.
Yes, and I think that while we're
Queuing up the video?
while we're queuing up the video, let me tell you a little bit about the format of at least an American Morris Ale. Is that anywhere between 3 and 20 or so teams will get together and converge on the Midwest Morris Ale is usually at a campsite near the city of whatever the hosting team is. And we'll all get together and brush up some common repertoire, some dances that we all sort of know or will be taught on that day, and we'll go out into the community that we're visiting and we'll perform there. But we also have time just with other dancers to perform for each other and also to teach and learn. And there's a lot of jam session spirited things, both also for singing, for dancing, for music, and musicians. And we camp, and there is ale involved often.
So the organization that hosts this or puts on this annual event is the Midwest Morris Ale Association, a nonprofit organization that exists to help promote and preserve the Morris tradition in the Midwest. And we were also, our Ann Arbor Morris is a member of a local dance organization called ACMAD, or Ann Arbor Community for Traditional Music and Dance, and we're part of that nonprofit organization as well. Are we going to be able to roll the video?
Yeah, we stand between east and west. Here we stand between life and death. Way out in the distance, crying for the same.
So as you can see, there's a lot of fun being had at the Morris Ale. So Corey, can you tell us what you like about the Morris Ales?
I love getting to see all of the different styles from the different groups, and also seeing what I feel like is part of my greatly extended family.
Okay.
It's a reunion.
And Lewis, what do you like about the Morris Ales?
So Corey had mentioned that there was kind of like a jam session for dancers, which is what Morris dancers call pickup dancing. And pickup dancing is probably the biggest draw for me. It's pickup dancing in the same way that you would have a pickup game of basketball, in that someone basically does pretty much whatever they want, and anyone else who feels like joining in is welcome to do so, usually without much instruction or without being previously familiar with the particular dance they're being pulled into. It's a very exciting and interesting thing to do, and the sense of community, friendship, excitement, and passion that's present during pickup dancing, especially since, as she said, you tend to do it with the community, people you're close to and don't get to see very often, are friends with, generally after all the activities of the day have finished, usually late at night, sometimes until morning, as you, a musician, know. Our musicians stick with us through a surprising amount of staying up when they are not particularly active.
Those stalwart soldiers.
But also just the sense of community is really important.
So in addition to the pickup dancing, there's pickup singing, pickup music. A lot of different subgroups get together and do those sorts of things, but it really is a sense of community. So let's talk a little bit more about the details of the dance itself. Sam?
Well, as you've seen in these video clips, Morris dancing has a different flavor than a lot of other dances. It doesn't really require finesse or require any sort of delicate nature. It's rowdy. It is certainly, it showcases physical ability. It involves rhythm and strength, and there's certainly the opportunity to show off, but it's not gendered. The roles aren't gendered. You're not partnered, but you are dancing with a group. You're dancing, moving with the music, and doing it and being in the dances is as involved as any type of dancing I've ever done, but it's more inclusive in the sense of of having more freedom of style for the individual while still being part of the group, and there's a certain playfulness and rowdiness to it that I find far more comfortable than many other types of dancing. Though I do enjoy other types of dancing.
Oh.
So it's not really competitive in a strict sense.
No. I mean, there is certainly some competitive nature that comes out with people jumping and showing off and clashing sticks hard and things like that. Yes, we dance with sticks, by the way. We'll get to that. But it is not an officially competitive or scored activity in any way. There isn't like a great governing body that's, holding up cards.
No judges.
No judges. And that is really, I think, for me, one of the draws is that you can reach for your own best, but because there isn't any guideline for achieving a perfect 10 score, for example, that every dancer is free to learn and grow their abilities and their knowledge at their own pace. It's not like you have to level up at certain points or you're out of the game, which I approve of.
One of the things that you guys have mentioned is the sense of camaraderie amongst the team members. I think that there's a clip that we're going to show. Do you want to introduce this clip?
Oh, yes. I think that this clip is a very good example of both the fun and professional demeanor of our group. And just as an aside, the call this time is when we are supposed to start dancing when the music comes around.
You're wonderful to play today. You need to play the dance. Alright. Nothing about a little shouting today. Listen! Pull up!
So there's, as you saw, there's a lot of fun to be had in the dancing. So Lewis, can you explain to our viewers why you keep coming back and doing Morris dancing?
Probably the biggest part of why I keep coming back to being a Morris dancer. I don't know if coming back's really the right term. I've never left being a Morris dancer. But the reason that I continue to dance is really the sense of a larger community and of something greater, not only than myself, but my team. There is very strongly, at least in the Midwest, a very strong community between all of the Midwestern teams and Morris dancers. And the experience, especially like the pickup dancing experience, dancing with dozens of friends and close acquaintances, is a very exhilarating and freeing experience that I like too much to just give up. The people have always been the biggest part of Morris dancing to me. People who are Morris dancers seem to be very interesting and intelligent people. A lot of them are very spectacular and fun, and surprisingly for a folk community, Morris dancing consists of a lot of very intelligent, intellectual people who are also very outgoing, outdoorsy, and open people, which is something you don't tend to find in a lot of communities that involve intellectual people.
Sam, can you give us your perspective on this?
In addition to a lot of the community aspects, there's a couple of other things that I think have really been important to me over the years in doing this. One is simply that I like the dancing. I enjoy doing the dancing itself. Also the aspect of performing and being able to cultivate a presence. And this is not something that comes naturally to me, but having had the experience has been actually very useful professionally for me and in any other circumstance where I have to be able to present myself. You look so skeptical.
What?
In addition, this is a very long-standing tradition. There's a great deal of established style and established parts of it to learn about, but it's also a living tradition. So when you participate in it and learn about it, you can also add to it. So we write dances that are then picked up by other teams, and that's actually a very important thing, part of it for me, that we're not just part of it in the sense that we've learned about it, we're part of it in the sense that we all contribute to it.
Well, and we've picked up quite a few of our dances from other teams as well.
Yeah, true story.
So we have some photographs of Morris dancing, some of our team that we're going to show, and you're going to describe some of those pictures?
Yeah. The first one is actually not of our team. It is something that I have found that was an old photo of some pre-folk revolution Morris dancers in England. These rest of these are of largely our team performing in various places at different gigs, which is what we refer to our performances at. Some of these are, I think the time step on that one starts with a 1, so it was at least 15 years ago. There's Greg with a red beard. I wonder who those rascals could be. That couldn't possibly be 2 out of the 3 people that are sitting on my side of the couch here. That was art fair and an ale, I'm assuming. Yes, because there's other Morris dancers that don't match our outfits. There's an ale. You can see people in the background. I believe that was one that we hosted in Lexington in 2011. This is pickup dancing. It's very blurry, but I love it because it totally encapsulates all of the awesome fun that we have doing that. We're big pickup dancing fans over here.
And that one shows Sam in her
Cool kid in action.
Kid. So, Lewis, while we're showing the rest of these pictures, can you say how the team got started?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, my mother was one of the founding members of the team. Back in 1976, when the team was formed, there was something still in existence called the Ann Arbor Medieval Festival, which is not one of the Renaissance festivals that's around today. It's been defunct for quite a while, but they had wanted to include Morris dancing as part of the folk festival, or as part of the medieval festival. And so they had been looking for people to volunteer to learn how to Morris dance and perform for the medieval festival. My mother was one of the people who had volunteered to learn and had in fact learned. And her and a number of the other people who had learned and gone and performed at the medieval festival that year decided they liked Morris dancing so much that they wanted to start a group. And so they started a full-time Morris side in 1976 after the medieval festival.
Great. As we saw in some of the pictures and the videos, there are different outfits that different teams wear. So can you describe for the viewers?
Sure. Our kit is a standard white button-down shirt, which is common to a large chunk of the Morris community, that also you saw in the picture of the old black and white picture. Black short pants, don't worry about finding them, we will help you make them. And then common, I think, probably to the vast majority of Morris is we wear bells on our legs, and they're very noisy. They go here. They are a awesome part of Morris because they contribute to the music. So you are partially your own accompaniment. They're rhythmic. Some people will also say they help wake up the ground on May 1st. And then for our team in particular, we also wear these red baldricks, which are the Ann Arbor kit. And we keep buttons on them that are souvenirs from different ales and other interests in our life. And it's sort of our little stamp of personal embellishment on a unified look.
And Sam, you're not wearing our outfit. What are you wearing there?
Whatever I want.
Well, describe it.
So, as part of the performances, there's a good deal of pageantry that goes along with it. Some of this comes from various traditions, some of the same folk traditions that Morris dancing has been associated with. And there's a number of characters that can go along with these things. The hobby horse, the Betty, the green man are some things that are associated, as well as the fool. When I'm able to perform as a fool, when we have a team going on, I can do things. These characters do things like engage with the audience, draw the audience into the performance. We can facilitate busking, should we have permits for such activities, and highlight what the dancers are doing by providing a contrast.
Okay, so to wrap up, we want to tell the audience that we're looking for all kinds of people to join our team. We've had, as we mentioned, children to 20s and 30-year-olds up to 50, 60-year-old people that are all enjoying Morris dancing throughout their lives. We invite people to come out and try this out. Is there any parting words that you would like to say about
Yeah, I think as much as we talk about it being athletic, which it is, it really is totally accessible to a variety of fitness levels. Being it stringy and springy is always a good thing, but I do just fine. Jumping is great, but rhythm can make up for a lot.
Louis?
I mean, what I'm going to say is Morris dancing is a very enjoyable thing to do just for dancing, but there are a lot of really great and interesting people in Morris dancing, and that's always been one of the biggest draws for me.
Sam?
The people who do it well, it's an activity that people tend to motivate themselves to do, but it's certainly available to people of all ages if they have the attention span and interest. And so enthusiasm is really, really a big part of it, and being able to play with it and enjoy yourself.
So our contact information is on the screen, so please give us a call.